man, you come out of...
The best advice I've ever been given, stop trying to be somebody.
You have to go to the circuit breaker and turn the circuit breaker off in your bedroom at night.
I'll do it in, let's say, just a handful of words. I build better brains.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Optimal Performance Podcast. The OPP is brought to you by Natural Stacks, makers of 100% natural and open source supplements designed to help you live optimal. For more information on how to build optimal mental and physical performance into your life, visit naturalstacks.com.
Ryan Muncie is probably the smartest guy I know.
Trust me, Muncie is the nutrition guy.
Ryan Muncie's out there trying to make the world better for all of us.
The Optimal Performance Podcast is bold, edgy, creative, entertaining, and epic.
Ryan Muncie is my go-to guy.
Ryan Muncie he's the first guy I call.
He's making people's lives better. Ryan Muncie's an innovator.
All right, guys. Fun episode for you today. Recorded these short interviews at the Bulletproof Conference. This is another installment of the OPP Hot Seat Editions. You guys know I love doing this for you, going to conferences, sticking the microphone in front of the people who are there talking and the people who are, moving our missions and movements forward. Cool lineup for you this week. We've got, in order, Jonny Bowden, who wrote 150 Healthiest Foods on Earth, one of my favorite books of all time. We've got Dr. Joseph Mercola, who was one of the speakers, obviously, at the event. Got to grab him backstage, ask him a few questions. Sky Chilton, who, along with his father, Jeff, run Namex. They're the suppliers for Natural Stacks Myco products. There's a hidden code, coupon code inside the episode for you guys, so pay attention for that one. Jim Kwik, he builds better brains. We had Luke's story, so apologies, Luke, and anybody who wants to hear the awesome stuff that Luke did share. It was not recorded. Don't know what happened, so I apologize to you guys. I apologize to Luke. We will try to get in touch with Luke and we'll redo it and we'll get that information to you guys because it was really good. And then we've got Dr. Anthony Gustin, Mary Shanuda, and Max Lugerver. So enjoy this one, guys. Be on the lookout for a little challenge from Jim Kwik, and make sure that when you take that challenge, you tag us on social media, and can't wait to see what you guys do with it.
All right, our next guest on the Bulletproof Hot Seat Podcast is a favorite of mine. I have no problem saying that, Mr. Dr. Jonny Bowden. Jonny, thank you so much for being here.
Ryan, it is my pleasure. I'm so glad we ran into each other.
I am too, and I told you this yesterday, and for our listeners, the book 150 Healthiest Foods on Earth is one of my favorite books. I love the way you did it. It's a resource that people can come back to. You've got a new version of it out now, right?
You have signed somewhere. But yes, the 10th anniversary edition, which is updated and revised, and there's a lot of new stuff. And
New science and...
whatever's new in the last, there's a lot in the last 10 years.
You put
a lot of new foods that didn't make it to the first one because they weren't around. Like
right.
Collagen powder, jackfruit.
Right.
Know about, stuff like that.
Beautiful. So we're going to have you back on the show for a full episode. We'll talk about the book and everything. But for now, I'm going to fire rapid fire questions at you. The name of the game is speed.
Okay,
so
good.
first thing that comes to your mind.
Right?
Exactly.
Speed interviewer.
Right.
Good.
So we're at the Bulletproof Conference. What's your number one tip to optimize mind and body?
Wow, man, you come out of the gate with my number one tip. Relax.
Okay.
There are no rules. There is a concept called biochemical individuality, which I was raised on and believe in. And it means that everybody's different. The size of our organs are different. And this is among healthy people.
Right.
In a dating site, some people like blonde, some people like brunette, some people like tall, short. Everybody is different, and we have to find our own role. So probably the number one thing I would tell people is to relax, forget about the rules, and to experiment, assess, and then adjust. And just trust that you will find your own path.
I love it. I love it. Number two, what has been your biggest aha moment in the last 2 or 3 months?
In the last 2 or 3 months. Wow. Man.
It's the hot seat. We got to give you good questions.
2 or 3 months. I don't know that I had a real epiphany in the last 2 or 3 months. I've been on a kind of journey of self-discovery like for 40 years. And so
Right.
it becomes more incremental than it does become about aha moments.
Okay.
I've had a few aha moments during the course of my life, but they don't happen as often.
Right.
As because they're now more incremental. It's kind
Right.
of like when you learn a language and then you add a few vocabulary words. It's not like a brand new thing when you first take up the language and you learn sentences that you could never say before.
Yeah.
I think one of my biggest aha moments, and I don't know that it was aha as much as an evolution, was to realize, because I started off as a weight loss coach and I worked with people for years and years and years on losing weight, and I think the biggest burden to be left with, to be shouldered and to be thrown off, was the notion that beauty comes in one size. And probably the most liberating for me, especially as a man, was to be, and I wrote an article on it, do we need a 12-step program for Barbie addiction, was to be liberated from the notion that beauty only looked a certain way. And as I've gotten older, the aha moment, which has been evolving over many years, is that beauty comes in every size, and that the most erotic thing in the world is the organ between the ears, and the weight, the size. We don't have to wait to have a size 2 body in order to feel sexy and wonderful and make a difference.
That's great. What's the most important thing that our listeners should stop doing?
I would say being hard on themselves. To me, I think that's probably the biggest obstacle. When I was working one-on-one with clients, as I did for 15 or 20 years, the biggest obstacle I saw to growth was how judgmental we are on ourselves. And I always feel like if you watched a tennis coach and that coach was like, "You stupid mother, how could you hit that ball that way? Don't you remember to lead with the butt of the racket?" You would say that's the worst coach in the world. Yet that's how many of us coach ourselves. With that judgmental tone and that really high bar. And while it's great to have standards and aspirations and goals, it's also good to relax a little bit and not judge ourselves so harshly, and know that this is a long journey. There's no end. It ain't over till the fat lady sings, and to just relax and enjoy the journey.
There's so many of these that we're going to come back to and explore further when you're on the show for a full one. No, this is great. Give me something that you're reading, watching, or listening to right now.
Esther Perel's new book, The State of Affairs.
Okay.
And I am a huge, I always lecture and say never follow a guru. I said that during my lecture here at Bulletproof. I wrote a blog about it called I Am Not Your Guru. Tony Robbins did a movie about himself called I Am. So I'm always saying don't follow gurus, except for Esther Perel. She is my guru. So I am reading her book. I'm reading Behave by Robert Sapolsky, who is one of the greatest science writers in the world, and wrote Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers, a popular book on stress. And that's about what I'm reading. Oh, and The Goldfinch. I'm reading The Goldfinch, which I'll probably be reading for 2 years because it's 900 pages.
Okay. Final question.
Yeah.
Best advice you've ever been given?
The best advice I've ever been given. Stop trying to be somebody else.
Beautiful. Jonny, thank you so much. This has been great.
This has been great. Thank you for having me.
On the hot seat, Dr. Joseph Mercola. Thanks for hanging out with us today.
Well, thank you. You're welcome.
All right. First question. We're at the Bulletproof Biohacking Conference.
Yeah.
What's your number one tip to optimize mind and body?
That's easy. My recent tip, and I think perhaps the most important, is to optimize and improve your sleep, because that's probably the single most important thing. And the mistake that most people are making, almost everyone in fact, is that they are exposing themselves to electric fields in their bedroom at night. This is not well known. So some people do this, but you have to go to the circuit breaker and turn the circuit breaker off in your bedroom at night. So you're sleeping with no electrical fields on your body, hopefully. Sometimes it gets more complex and there's other rooms running around, other wires that you have to do a more detailed analysis, but that's the primary recommendation.
Okay. That's great, because my next question is going to be how do we do that? And a lot of people say turn off your Wi-Fi at night, which obviously would help.
Yeah,
but
it's definitely good.
Okay.
Let me expand that to perhaps earlier this year. I was arrogantly ignorant of my immunity to the damage from EMF. Okay. I thought that if I ate healthy, I exercised, and I followed essentially a really good healthy lifestyle, it didn't matter. I can't see it, I can't hear it, I can't feel it. So what does it matter? I could expose myself to this radiation. It's not going to damage me. And I was diluted on steroids. It does. All you have to be is a human, a plant, an animal, or a microbe, and it will impact you. So you want to minimize your exposure to unnatural EMFs, which is pervasive in our culture. So, and the most important one, as I mentioned earlier, is electric fields in the bedroom.
Right. So how did you? What was the thing that?
The epiphany?
Yeah.
I've known about this stuff for a long time. I've written about it for well over 10 years, probably closer to 15 years, and I knew that the impacts was non-thermal, and now we just have the molecular mechanisms described by Dr. Martin Pall, P-A-L-L. But I presented with Dr. Klinghardt at one of his lectures. He's my mentor for 20 years, probably one of the smartest physicians in the world in alternative medicines. And he just made a generalized comment on how physicians were pretty unaware and delusional that they think they're helping people with diet when they're not addressing the myth. And he, in his practice, he sees people from all over the world, some of the sickest people, and he refuses to see them if they fail to mitigate the EMF, because his experience in the trenches is that these people will not get better. And he's not willing to waste his time and have them fail because they're ignoring the basics. Yeah. And that hit me like a ton of bricks, and I realized I was guilty.
What are you reading, watching, or listening to right now?
I read about 150 books a year. So they're queued up from some of the top health experts in the world, and that's what I do. I walk on the beach, and I combine a multitask so I can expose most of my body to sunshine, healthy sunshine, and grounding, and fresh air, and negative ions from the ocean. And I read my Kindle.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. On airplane mode?
Yes, on airplane mode. Kindle is less of a problem, but yes, it's definitely on airplane mode, along with my Aura Ring. And for those who don't know, I've been on Dave's podcast and sort of criticized Aura for doing that. And actually, I was responsible because I didn't understand that if you take it off your finger, which you have to do, when I hold my Kindle, I guess I didn't have to, but I switched, depending which hand I'm holding the Kindle, I switched the ring so I can move my arm to make sure it records the steps.
Right.
And when you do that, it takes it out of airplane mode.
Okay.
I didn't know that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Best advice you've ever been given?
That's a good question. And I'm sleep deprived and literally function at 50% sleep that I normally do. My Aura scores are like readiness is 50%. I mean, I'm like never go below 70 and it's like in the 50s. So I'm just failing to come up with a good answer on that. There's some good answers. I just can't access the data at this
How about
point.
This? I'll buy you some time and just say that we could ask you this question any day of the week or any week of the year, and you'd probably come up with something different. What's the first thing that comes to your mind right now?
About advice from someone to me?
Yeah.
Well, it's the reason it's so complex is that they don't really tip. The information and the wisdom I gain from others isn't directed at me specifically. Mm-hmm. So it's not like, okay, you should do this and this and this. Right. I mean, I'm sure they have. I just can't think of it. But it's extracting. Well, the biggest one is Dietrich and in his message that we need to appreciate the importance of EMFs. I mean, I didn't get it. I was biologically damaging myself. There's about 3% of the population who are sensitive to EMF. By sensitive, I mean they have symptoms or symptomatic. They would call them electromagnetically hypersensitive or canaries. But the reality is they can feel it. These are the fortunate ones because they have symptoms. All of us have similar damage. We just don't feel it.
Right.
Yeah. So they're the ones that live longer because they know they have an internal warning that gives them feedback to avoid that exposure, and we don't. Right. And it's just the same molecular damage. Yeah.
Excellent. That's it. You're off the hot seat. Thanks for hanging out with us.
All right. Thank you, Ryan.
Next up on the hot seat, Sky Chilton. Sky is part of Namex, and they are the wonderful suppliers of all of the Natural Stacks micro products. Anything you want to add to sort of a Twitter bio, 140 characters or less?
Well, Namex is a premium supplier of organic medicinal mushroom extracts. We've been around since the late 80s, and we're one of the first companies to bring organic mushroom extracts to North America.
All right, and you guys can find those in the Natural Stacks products, like I said, Myco Mind, Myco Boost, Myco Immune, and I'll put a link in the show notes for you guys. We'll actually put a coupon for you, we'll give you a coupon just for listening to this one. How about that? And we'll go 25% off. Use the code MycoOPP. So MYCOOPP. All right, you ready for the hot seat, Sky?
Yeah, let's do it.
Name of the game is speed.
Okay.
So whatever comes to your mind first or fastest. We're at the Bulletproof Conference. What's your number one tip to optimize mind and body?
I'd say sleep is a big one. Sleep and diet is what I always tell people. I mean, dial in your diet first, mix in some exercise, get good sleep.
I know you travel a lot. You go out of the country, especially China. How do you keep your diet on track in a place like China?
Most of it is sleep when you're dealing with time zones. So definitely I like ZMA, melatonin, and then try and, mix in some exercise if you can in the hotel. Bring in, like a little lacrosse ball or some kind of bands that you can do something with just to keep your body moving and try and stay healthy, because definitely you can get run down easy.
All right, very, very nice. In the last 2 or 3 months, give me your biggest aha moment.
Wow.
Or maybe for all of 2017, if you need to go back.
2017 aha moment. I think just putting out good content, educating people has been really good for us. There's so much misinformation out there about mushrooms that we really need to tell people, 2, 3, 4 times the same messages before it really clicks in about difference in mushroom products.
Okay. And just to reiterate what that is, in case somebody needs to hear it a second, third, or fourth time.
Sure, definitely. So there's a lot of mushroom products out there that don't actually contain any mushrooms. So what a lot of companies do is they will grow the root system of the mushroom on a grain substrate, and they will dry that and powder it and sell that as a mushroom when it actually doesn't contain any mushrooms. And our analysis show that a lot of that actual ingredient is grain. And so people may be out there taking a mushroom product thinking that they're getting all these great benefits from mushrooms, but actually it doesn't have any mushrooms in it at all.
We had Jeff on the podcast about a year ago talking about that. So if you guys haven't listened to that one, go back and listen to that. And I will put a link to it in the show notes, as well as the paper that shows that analysis. What should our listeners stop doing?
Wow.
Just threw you right in.
I know. You caught me there. I think, for me, I think it's like consuming too much content. There's a point where reading the next best thing is like, you got to take action. I think, it's about figuring out where you want to go and just get out there, make decisions, take action, and get things done.
All right. So this is a question that is already written down, and it's going to be kind of anti your last answer. But what are you reading, listening to, or watching right now?
So let's see. What am I just listened to Tim Ferriss's recent podcast with Esther. I was listening to that on the way down on relationships. I think I listened to a Noah Kagan podcast, so big Noah fan there. And then reading wise, what's the one I'm reading right now? Can't remember. There's a good book I'm reading about founders. So it's a lot startup founders. So it's a lot of the sort of .com founders and how their journeys through creating products and how it came to be, and it's really interesting.
Okay. Best advice you've ever been given?
Wow. I think it's, it's kind of cheesy, but do something that you like doing, and work on giving. And I find that if you give to a lot of people, eventually it comes back to you, and don't expect anything in return.
Beautiful. Sky, thanks for hanging out with us on the hot seat.
Awesome. Thanks, Ryan.
Jim Kwik, welcome to the hot seat.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Ryan.
Give us your Twitter bio, 140 characters or less.
Okay. I'll do it in, let's say, just a handful of words. I build better brains. That's what I do.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Precise. All right. We're at the Bulletproof Conference, all about optimization, biohacking. What's your number one tip for optimizing the mind and the body?
Okay, so my superpower is the area of accelerated learning. I think if there's one skill for everyone to master in the 21st century, it's your ability to learn faster, to think faster, to focus better. And so I could give a really simple 3-step tip on how to learn faster, especially for biohackers that you're always learning you're meeting lots of people and remember their names. I teach people MOM, and I would say these are 3 keys to retain information better. Because the thing is a lot of biohackers will learn stuff, they'll listen to podcasts, they'll read books, and then 2 days later, they'll forget everything they learned. So remember MOM. So let's say someone has trouble remembering someone's name. And I would say that, let's say there is a suitcase of $100,000 cash. If you just remember the person's name and the next person you meet, stranger, everyone will remember the person's name, of course. And so notice it had nothing to do with their capabilities. It had everything to do with whether they wanted to or not. So the M is motivation. So if you want to learn faster, tune into your motivation. Everyone knows the book Start With Why by Simon Sinek. I believe there's a success formula that goes from H cubed, head, heart, hands. You can visualize things in your heart, set goals. You can visualize things in your head, set goals in your head. But if you're not acting with your hands, usually what's missing is the heart, is the energy, emotion, like what fuels you. So it's tap into the why. So for example, why do you want to learn this? What is it going to give you? Why do you want to remember the person's name? Because reasons reap results. And I think that's very important. The O in MOM, this is very important for everyone as we're learning. The O stands for observation. A lot of people blame their learning difficulties to their retention, but it's not your retention, it's your attention. So, for example, recently I got to spend some time with President Bill Clinton, and the big takeaway for me is he had an incredible memory. A lot of people don't know this, but he's an incredible communicator, and he's got this powerful presence. But I think his incredible memory, his powerful presence comes from being powerfully present with people. And we could do that more often when we pay attention. And so the O is observation. And finally, the last M in MOM is mechanics. And those are the kind of things that we teach in our podcasts and our online courses: how to learn another language, how to remember names, how to speed read, how to retain large amounts of information, give speeches without notes.
Beautiful. Motivation, observation, mechanics.
You got it.
All right. I was motivated. All right. Jim, in 2017, what's been sort of the biggest aha moment for you?
So I mentioned we recently launched our podcast. And so I do believe we're in this age of attention. And I think audio is really great. So I love this kind of format because people could do that and they could listen to things while they're just working out, while they're going about their days. So that was a big aha. So we launched that quickly in a handful of months, did over 1 million downloads. Our show is only 10 minutes long. So it's brain hacks for busy people who want to learn faster and achieve more. So that format was really good for me. The other thing is I realized that there's 3 big supervillains that every entrepreneur, every biohacker needs to be able to tackle so they have more energy to work on their personal growth and their giving really fast. Digital overload. Right, we have this too much information, too little time. It feels like you're taking a sip of water out of a fire hose. So that was a big revelation that I write a lot about. The second thing is digital distraction. That one of the biggest obstacles to your effectiveness in terms of growing your brand, your body, your brain, your business is distraction. And right now, our smart devices are really rewiring our brains to be more and more distracted. Every time you get a like, a comment, a share, you get these dopamine fixes, and you need to control that. And one quick tip, and nobody's going to like me for this, but I would highly recommend people do not use their phone the first hour of the day, because what it does is when you're in this alpha, theta, relaxed state of awareness, you're very susceptible. And when you pick up your phone, you're literally training your brain to be distracted, and you're training your brain to be reactive, meaning when you're responding to fires and texts and emails, it's a huge drudge on your productivity. And then the third villain is after digital overload, digital distraction, is digital dementia. And this is a new term. You'll have everyone, even millennials, suffering from senior moments coming a little too early. You can't remember a conversation, can't remember someone's name, can't remember, the meeting that you had. And I think digital dementia is a big deal because we're outsourcing our brains to our smart devices, and your brain is like a muscle, it grows stronger with use, but it's use it or lose it. And nowadays you can't even remember a phone number, a PIN number, a passcode. It's so difficult because people have lost that ability because their phone's doing all the work for them.
Well, not only that, but it goes back to what you were saying earlier about attention. and you're texting, you're looking up a notification, you're trying to have a conversation, you're doing so many different things at once, you don't have that attention on any.
And we lived, 2017 is the age of attention. And that's already, I mean, we're trading, attention all the time. And that's our biggest value that we have, because people always can make more money. Every 2 weeks your paycheck gets replenished and stuff like that, but you can't get your time back. And that's why, everybody has a different network connections. They have different incomes. They have a different education, but everybody has 24 hours in a day. And it's how we leverage it, in terms of the essence of it. That's really, I don't think we can manage our time, but I think we can manage our tasks and our priorities.
So I'm dying to know, what are you reading, listening to, or watching right now?
Yeah, and so I'm an avid reader. I have a number of books that I read a book a day. So for the past 4.5 years, and I think leaders are readers. So on my shelf right now is a book called Understanding. It's a brand new book, just came out by Richard Saul Wurman. He is, if his name's familiar, he's written over 90 books, but he's most famous for creating the TED Conference. And he's a brilliant man. He recently released a book this month called Understanding, and it's basically, he asked 25 people, all experts in their fields, what does it mean to understand something? How do you truly know whether you understand something or not? So he asked, for example, magician David Blaine, from his point of view. He asked world-renowned architect, Frank Gehry. And I got to be one of those 25 people, and we all contributed chapters on this. And so the book is 700 pages long, and it looks like it's an incredible work of art. But that's a great book. High Performance Habits by friend Brendan Burchard, who speaks at a lot of our events. The Mask of Masculinity, Lewis Howes, just came out. A great book called Tapping Solution just came out, and it's Manifesting Your Greatest Self. Tapping is a tool you could use to negate and change limiting beliefs. It's called EFT, Emotional Freedom Technique, is the clinical term for it. You could help get rid of anxiety people have about stress, public speaking, stress, social anxiety, trauma. Really powerful. So those are the things that are up for me right now.
Okay. Last question.
Yeah.
Best advice you've ever been given?
Oh my God. Okay. All right. I grew up with learning challenges. So despite what people see me do on stage, memorize 100 people's names, 100 words, 100 numbers, I always tell people that you could do it too. And I know this because I grew up with learning challenges. So I had a brain injury and everything. I was ready to quit school. My challenges were so severe all through school. When I got to college, I was ready to quit. And a friend of mine said, hey, before you tell your parents you're going to quit school and disappoint them, visit my family. I'm going this weekend and get some perspective. And I think perspective is very important for all biohackers. And I think what gives me perspective is change of place and change of people. And, who you spend time with is who you become, and so on. Anyway, when I go see their family, very wealthy, and the father walks me around his property and asks me a very innocent question and says, Jim, how's school? Which is the worst question you could ask me, because I was failing out, I was ready to quit. I tell him my story about learning disabilities and brain damage. And he's like, Jim, why are you in school? What do you want to be, do, have, share? And this is the answer to your question. I go to answer him. He pauses. He pulls out a journal out of his back pocket. He takes out a couple sheets of paper and makes me write it down. And I've never had a bucket list before, but that became a bucket list. When I was done, I fold up the sheets of paper, put it in my pocket, thinking the exercise is over, and he grabs it right out of my hand. And here you have this successful, happy, Phil guy looking at my dreams, the 18-year-old, insecure, broken brain. I was actually labeled the boy as broken brain when I was 9 years old by another adult teacher, actually. And so, and this is for the magic, is he reads at my bucket list and he says, Jim, you are this close to everything on that list. And he spreads his index fingers about a foot apart. And I was like, no way, give me 10 lifetimes and I'm not going to crack that list. And he takes his 2 fingers, and it's amazing. He puts it right to the side of my temples, Ryan, like right to the side of my head, meaning it was my brain that was the key to help me get everything on that list. And he walks me into his house, into a room I've never seen before. You'd love it. It's wall-to-wall, ceiling to the floor, covered in books. And he starts grabbing books and handing them to me. And they're the incredible biographies of men and women in history and very early personal development books. Think and Grow Rich, Power of Positive Thinking, Psycho-Cybernetics, Man's Search for Meaning, all these classics, right? And he says, leaders are readers. And he says, if you want everything on that list, just read 1 book a week. And I never forgot that, because I do believe leaders are readers. And I also believe that if somebody has decades of experience and they put into a book and you could sit down in a couple of days and read it, you could download decades and days. And it's the fastest way to fast track your success.
The thing that stands out to me in that is something. There's a podcast that I've recorded that's going to come out after this one. So as you guys listen to this, stay tuned for a few weeks. We're going to have Paul Reddick on the show, but he talks about all of our strengths come from something that was once a deficit or a weakness, and I love how you shared that, and I didn't know that backstory about you, and I don't think a lot of other people know unless they've heard you talk about it. But I mean, you're right. Like, we see you on stage and we just see you as a super brain.
Yeah.
And that's not fair to you, but it's also not fair to us and how we perceive our own journey.
Yeah. And my message for people really is this. I mean, my inspiration was my desperation. You know, the boy with the broken brain. I want to go and build better brains for individuals. But when I do these demonstrations, I don't do this to impress people. I do this to express to them what's really possible, because the truth is every single person listening could do that and a lot more. You just weren't taught. If anything, we were taught a lie. We were taught a lie so that somehow our potential, our intelligence, our memory, is fixed like our shoe size, and it's absolutely not true. We discovered more about the human brain in the past 20 years than the previous 2,000 years, and what we found is we are grossly underestimating our own power and our own potential. And the reason why is if your people are stressed right now, like you feel like you're learning, you're taking a sip of water out of a fire hose, too much to learn, too little time. It's not your fault. It's because our school system did not train and prepare us for the world that exists now. We all have had a 20th century education that prepares us for a 20th century world, which at the turn of this century was working in factories and farms. And now we live in an age of digital age, of electric cars and spaceships going to Mars. And our vehicle of choice to ride into this information age is like a horse and buggy. You know, like it's tragic. They say that if Rip Van Winkle woke up today after decades of slumber, the only thing he would recognize is our schools. And schools, they don't teach the things, and it's not a slight against teachers. My mother became a special ed teacher to be able to help me, and I have a huge respect for teachers. But like the things that, the guests that you have and the things that you teach, like they don't teach biohacking back in school, how to find your passion, your purpose, how to manage your time, your finances, and also they teach you what to learn: math, history, science, Spanish. There are 0 classes on how to learn, how to think for yourself, how to solve problems, how to be creative, right? How to start your own business, how to learn how to learn. Yeah.
Beautiful. Jim, thank you so much for being on the hot seat. We'll let you go. Thanks for your time.
Dude.
We would love to have you back on the show.
Yeah, I would love for people to actually, listen to this episode again and post your big ahas. And I would actually love to know what your listeners' answers would be to this. And if they could tag me, and I love learning. I think we can learn from everybody, and I'm curious. But if they post it,
let's do it. Post. You guys share this on social media. Tag Jim
at Jim Kwik, KWIK,
and tag us at Natural Stacks. And then
yeah.
Can we give away
a
course, a book? Or?
Yeah, we could absolutely do that. I will send, if you tag me in it at Jim Kwik, JIMKWIK, and maybe they can answer one question, and then for our favorite answer, we'll send them one of our online speed reading courses.
Okay. How about, do you want to do best advice or biggest aha moment?
Ooh.
Maybe biggest takeaway from you, because that was loaded with gems.
Yeah, they could do their big aha either from this conversation or in their life. Okay. Let's do it.
All right, you guys heard it. Post it. Tag at Natural Stacks and at Jim Kwik,
JIMKWIK.
All right, Jim. Thank you so much.
Dude, you're the best, Ryan.
My one tip for ultimate living is eat real food.
Gratitude.
Be a curious person.
Don't be creepy.
That's two.
Give me the biggest aha moment that you've had in the last 2 or 3 months.
That's 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Get after it. How about?
My biggest aha moment is to be grateful for everything inside of me as well as everything that is outside of me.
Wow. I would say I've been toying with earlier bedtimes, which has been really good for me. I tend to be a bit of a night owl, but I've been trying to go to bed by like 10 p.m., 11 p.m., and I wake up a lot earlier, and it's been really great, a lot more productive.
Okay, my answer was too shallow compared to these guys who have to beef this up. I would say that you're not responsible for other people's thoughts or emotions.
You like how we level you up? Hold the standard, if you will.
Most important thing that our listeners should stop doing.
punishing themselves for their mistakes in life.
I would say believing everything they read on the internet, in health books, and as said by health gurus. I think more people need to be willing to challenge their own hypotheses and the things that they read, because that, to me, truly is what science is all about.
Yeah, similar. Not taking an individual approach to health and taking blanket advice is something that I think people should stop doing.
On that note, what are you reading, watching, or listening to right now?
Quantum Electrodynamics and a book called Total Freedom are the two books that I'm reading currently.
Laughing Through Revolution. It's about the Arab Spring, done with a comedic voice about the Middle East, and a little cartoon called BoJack Horseman on Netflix.
Very good. This is Max. I'm reading On Writing by Stephen King. I've been writing quite a bit lately, and I wanted to learn from the master about what it takes to be considered a good writer. And this was on the recommendation of my friend Matt Nathanson, who is a great writer, songwriter. So, been digging that.
All right, you can hold it right there, Max. Last question. Best advice you've ever been given?
Best advice, I would say probably to be impeccable with your word. I know it's one of the 4 agreements, but something that I, find not many people live up to that ideal. It is an ideal, but something that I really am proud of is that when I say that I'm going to do something, generally I do it. A lot of people kind of they fudge their their what they say that they're going to do, how they say they're going to live. I think we need more, people adhering to that ideal, I guess.
Best advice I've been given is to be competitive about the value you bring to your time on this planet.
Best advice is from my dad. He said, don't work for anybody else and work your ass off.
Thank you.
All right, guys, that wraps up the hot seat episode of the OPP for this week. Thank you, as always, for tuning in, spending your time with us. I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I enjoyed recording it for you. As always, go to naturalstacks.com. You'll be able to see the blog post for this one that will have links where you can follow up with all of our guests, follow them on social, check out their books, any of that good stuff. That's also where you'll be able to use that coupon code that we dropped for all of the Myco products. Remember, that code is Myco OPP, MYCO OPP. And go to iTunes, leave us a 5-star review. Let us know how much you like the show. We will read them on the air. And when we do, we will send you a little care package as a thank you. Today, I want to read you one from Brian A.G. Mind blown, 5 stars. I love listening to Ryan and his esteemed guests. Always look forward to taking in the goldmine of knowledge and that bit of enlightenment after each session. Keep at it, sir. Brian, thank you so much. Email me, ryan@naturalstacks.com. As I said, we will hook you up with a little care package as our way of saying thank you for your support. And guys, please share the OPP with the people in your life who you know will benefit from and enjoy the things that we are doing here. This is how we help more people. This is how we get that information to the people who need to hear it. So asking you to click that share button on iTunes, grab the link. You can share it via email, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, whatever. And there's a really cool challenge that you heard from Jim Kwik. So take that challenge, share it, tag the podcast, and let's help more people build better brains. Thank you guys again for spending some time with us. We'll catch you next week.